Next, we have a panel hosted by Chip Comins, our Areday very own host. With him, we have Greg Reitman, Steve Michelson, and John Quigley, speaking about the impact films. Thank you.
Well, here we are again. So I want to quickly just introduce my esteemed colleagues here. Starting on the end, Greg Reitman, who is the founder and producer of Blue Water Entertainment. And he has an extraordinary film out called Rooted in Peace that Sally and I were co-producers on. And I highly recommend that you all see that in terms of its perspective on the need to plant trees. Moving over, we have John Quigley, who is an extraordinary artist who has of late been working on an amazing project with the Sierra Club, 100% Renewable, which is, you might all remember the image from COP21 in Paris, where there's the Eiffel Tower and the human body spell out 100% renewable, and we will be recreating that today at 6 o'clock, but if you want to get involved, I'll let John tell you a little bit more about the specifics, but it's happening up the slope, and we hope that photo that will be taken by a drone will go far and wide in support of Sierra Club's 100% Renewable campaign. And then we have Steve Michelson over here, the founder of OnePass, for those of us who are old enough to remember what that is, but that was a breakthrough company in the 70s that actually taught us how to move into videotape production at that time. And Steve revolutionized the industry and even had people like Steve Wozniak working for him back then. But now Steve is with the video project and also moving into some nonprofit arenas. I'll let him explain that. But to know that Steve is one of the folks that helped and is on the advisory board of the impact film that we've launched here at Areday, along with Louis and a few others that may be in the room. But the point is that impact film is relative to what happens when we leave the movie theater. What do we do with that information? I was very honored to be one of the producers on Louis' last film, and when I talk about impact films or impact film, I like to cite Louis' movie that he won the Oscar for, which was The Cove. When it came out, and Louis won the Oscar, and then it went on to become the most widely seen documentary in the history of documentaries, I think. In 2010, between 2010 and today, the film has been able to help reduce the dolphin slaughter in Taiji, Japan, of 65%. And Louis, correct me if I got these stats wrong, but the point is that that's impact film. And then Steve is the other filmmaker I like to cite when I'm describing impact film, because way back in 2005, when Steve first came to Areday, he had a film that he produced called Oil on Ice, and Oil on Ice was an extraordinary movie made by Beau Boudar and Steve, and he followed the caribou herds up to the Anwar, and at that time George Bush and company wanted to open up the Anwar for drilling, and this is before Facebook, folks. Remember, go back 10 years, and there wasn't social networks. We had the internet. It was nascent. I mean, it was still figuring itself out, and Steve was able to, with Beau, execute a campaign of house parties all around the country, mostly in college towns, and got the awareness up on this situation where ultimately I think you sent copies out to every member of the House and Senate, and it came to a vote, and they got 25 Republicans to come over and make sure that we didn't drill at the Anwar back then. That's impact film. So I just wanted to frame the conversation quickly, because this is the impact film panel. And then maybe we'll start with you, Steve, and you can just tell the folks a little bit about more about what you're up to now, and then we'll move down.
Yeah, well, maybe if you just put up that first slide that I have, just so to finish up on what you were talking about with Oil on Ice. Just to clarify, we had over 7,500 house parties that we did with the Sierra Club at the time. Wow. And the remarkable thing about it was we were able, this was at the early days of the internet, we were able to have about 500,000 people a month during the actual votes. There were 3 votes in Congress, as Chip was mentioning. That first vote, people really wanted to know the information. And what's so important about this is the data-driven aspect of even back then. It's become so much more important now to be able to quantify and create metrics around your film and the impact of the film. So many of the funders are requiring that, and that's why we have moved to a new level. Our studio, our film distribution studio, is based in San Francisco. We have about 350 films in our library, and each year we acquire about 20 films, and of those 20, maybe 3 or 4 become campaign and impact films. And the most interesting thing that's happened in the last few years, this will be new for you, Chip, is this development of the new horticulture. And we're very close with the Active Voice Lab who developed this, and it's a new way to look at impact film using common garden tools as metaphors for how that film is going to create impact. So, you know, a shovel, a trellis, a rake, and a wheelbarrow, you know, are good metaphors for what that film is trying to attempt. Oil on Ice was a wheelbarrow. We were trying to convince the American public that they should become aware of, you know, what was going on in the Arctic refuge. So other films have more focused and limited efforts and action campaigns around them, and the new tools for doing that. I think you just saw what's going on in the internet in 1 minute. So it's an exciting time for all of us as impact filmmakers. So we can really make a difference over a sustained and longer period of time. A time period we call slow media because nothing does happen overnight. It takes sometimes years. In this case with Oil on Ice, it was 12 years in distribution. And only this year did President Obama actually create the executive order to protect the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. So, you know, that for us is a completion cycle from the early days.
Great, great, Steve. Thank you for your thinking and leadership on this whole initiative, this methodology of how do we get the action to traction. John, can you tell us a little bit about impact film? In this case, we're moving to film from the perspective of a film camera, even though we don't use film cameras anymore, I guess. But in terms of how art can effectuate impact through film.
Sure. Well, when Chip asked me to be on this panel, I'm not a classical filmmaker in the sense I don't make documentaries or feature films, but we create events that become little short films. And it combines the power of a live event and bringing thousands of people together with the short film that results that then goes through social media. Can you throw up the Paris image, the first still? Chip mentioned this. This is, oh, thank you. This was an image, those of you who were in Paris know the climate after the bombings. And it was very difficult. That basically the authorities canceled everything. And we held on to this idea that the people were going to speak. And we eventually were given approval for what was essentially the first large-scale public expression after the bombings. And this is, for the other work that I do, this is a relatively small crowd event. It's about 350 people. But there was a 45-second video of this that had 2 million views in the first 24 hours. So these events, as well as having the still photography having power to travel through our visual society and our social media age, little short clips really make a difference. Like for the Louis of the world who are brilliant at what they do, the work that you've done where you spend years on a project, so many ecosystems and communities are under threat right now that we need ways to be able to move quickly, go to the source, create action, make noise, bring awareness, and then be able to get the story out quickly. So that's what these human aerial art images do. And I'd actually, if we have time, I have a short video that is it's a couple short. It's 3 or 4 minutes. Is that too long for this? If not, we can hold off. It's a body of work for 20 years.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, let's run the video. 'Cause I want to do it because Sylvia's here. She's one of my heroes, and it starts with her quote. This is where these all started 20 years ago with school kids in California.
Oh, look at that quote. That's great.
When your kids talk about their future, do you listen? It started as a call for help, an SOS to save our seas and our home. For clean water to preserve and protect animals. To restore balance so we can keep oceans alive and sustain life.
Love grows in this garden. Love flows where it once was hardened.
Yes.
So thank you for, I know it's in a short panel, that we just completed that, and that's 20 years of work with over 100,000 kids. The Coastal Commission has funded that over the last 20 years, and that's really where this work started. And just to finish off, the power of people embodying a message, where you literally become part of the message. I've seen it time and again as a media generator, as a tool for building your teams, for your movements. It has been just extremely successful in all of those areas. And we have an opportunity later today. Can you show the last visual, please? We started this project about 2 months ago. This is an 80-acre crop art on the proposed Keystone Pipeline route in Nebraska. So that's a half a mile by a quarter of a mile. We started this Human 100% Sun campaign with Sierra Club for the Ready for 100 campaign. And today we're going to be doing one just before the Taj Mahal concert. So if you get inspired here at Areday, and I know there's been incredible talks, this is a chance for you to literally embody something that is going to be seen by a lot of people in social media and traditional media. So about 6:15 up at the on Fanny Hill before the concert. Please come out. We need your bodies. It'll be fun, and we'll send a powerful message about 100% clean energy.
You have that image or no?
Not yet.
Great.
We'll see it.
Well, thanks for coming, John, and we really look forward to not only, you know, Taj's concert, of course, but, you know, your living art piece and how that's going to impact the world. And that's really the point of why we're all here. How do we get our message out there? So, Greg, that comes to maybe the Rooted in Peace story.
I actually wanted to say something about impact, if I can. It was really interesting. I don't know if Bill is here, Bill Ryerson, but we were watching, was it Mahala? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Davis Guggenheim's film. And you go through this entire, you know, incredible film about this incredible girl from Pakistan who ends up not winning the Nobel Peace Prize. And at the end of the movie, Bill, you hear people crying behind us, but at the end of the movie, he said, it was the last 10 seconds or the last 15 seconds that really impacted me, that moved me, that shifted me, that made me actually want to do something, you know, go to action. And I think it's really interesting. And the reason why I'm talking about that is because USA Today was interviewing a bunch of filmmakers about the Impact Film Festival, and she was asking me this question, like, what is impact? And I was troubled. I really couldn't figure out that answer. And then I realized you go through this experience, this 90 or hour and a half movie, and it's really, as a filmmaker, it's that last 30 seconds that they get all that information. And for Mahala, it was seeing how she was transmitting this idea of education to all of the girls and self-empowerment. You know, and as you walk out, you just want to help. And I also realized, you know, for me, like, what was it about Rooted in Peace? Why did I I go and spend 5.5 years of my life wanting to tell a peace story? I could have made a lot of money doing a lot of other things. And I mean, what was it that really called for me to tell this story? And I realized at the end of the movie, I didn't really want to share a piece of this 10-second clip, which was really my own self-transformation of being married with my wife, Britta. And at that moment, it really wasn't the marriage or the visual, but for everyone was telling me, it was this love for humanity. It was this love for this interconnectedness of Earth. It allowed people to open up their hearts. And so at that moment, I didn't get that for 5.5 years. I just got that last night watching the movie, why everyone kept on saying, why that last 10-second clip is so important. What is that impact that moves people? So that's what I think now when I think of the Impact Film Festival, when I think of these films and these journey, like, what is it that we go on in this journey that we want each of you to sort of embrace? And then I guess that would lead into, can I just put up a slide? Yeah. So 6 years ago, when I first started, I didn't even know there was a peace day that was sanctioned. I think it was like in 1981 by Evan Matheson, that is held every year on September 21st at the United Nations, and there are 4 UN peace ambassadors, Elie Wiesel, Michael Douglas, Yoko Ono, and Jane Goodall. And each year they rotate and are there in ceremony. And so I got really inspired. I had an opportunity to participate in the 350 campaign that John Quigley did, and I really invite all of you to come out on the lawn, because it's one to see an image, but it's another to actually participate in the image. So this year, as part of our call to action, we want to create with this idea of peace trees and do it on the Great Lawn. Now this year they'll have the Global Citizen Festival, which will be on the Great Lawn, but we've already applied for our permit, which we think will be granted, and will be on the Great Hill on the backside. And it's the idea of having 500 to 1,000 people come together to send a message of peace. But it's not just a message of peace, which is really what my journey was about. It's really about empowering all these movements, one being the peace movement and the environmental movement, to come together. So there's this idea of environmental justice and this idea of peace, and they're all silos. They're all in separate camps. And I feel as part of Areday and as part of our collective, it's how do we unify these groups under one umbrella? So this was really, for me, I felt a very great way to sort of to work with Spectral Q art to really take this impactful little piece of art in this image and spread it out. So if anyone's interested in getting involved in the campaign, or if you have an NGO or a nonprofit, or if you know a foundation that wants to contribute, we literally finished this presentation last week. I put it together in like 2 hours. I was so inspired. So that's my invitation.
Great. Well, we really would like to participate in that, and hopefully think that's, you've got it timed up for Climate Week, I think.
It is. It actually runs during Climate Action Week. It's it's incredible time. It's CGI, it's Climate Action Week, it's all the time, and all of the UN General Assemblies and international figures all come in. And it's, you know, it's an interesting idea. We ask people to embrace world peace, but in the same sense, what is peace? And I think that, you know, besides just political, you know, destruction, there's also environmental destruction that's going on. And so how do we weave, you know, this collective together? And I think it's really important that they realize that they're not separate, that they are together.
So, you know, I'd like to take this into the notion that in order to use the medium of film and social media, the internet, in order to effectuate the kind of change that's needed, which is really a, you know, sort of a great awakening in so many regions almost simultaneously, you know, in this notion of things going viral. And becoming, you know, popular very, very fast. You know, Steve, can you think about how, you know, you started something called Slow Media, and, you know, I mean, can we speed up impact film?
That's a great question, and yes, the answer is very much so. We released a film in 2008 about the environmental impact of war. The filmmakers were both 80 years old. It was their first film. They both were PhD scholars from Columbia University, and they made this epic feature documentary. And one of the problems with feature documentaries is they're long, and they take a long time. Now, 8 years later, we've actually inherited from them, they're 88, they're planning their legacy, and they've given us, their kids weren't interested in running it, but the foundation that they had contributed their entire pension plan from Columbia. And over the last 8 years, we've been every year doing new things to create impact. This year, we've just launched 5 short films. So the answer to your question is short films are a lot more digestible. People watch them on their iPhones. They have tremendous linkage potential with websites, with emails, with all sorts of other opportunities through all the different social media. So the ideal connection between a longer film, which provides depth and information, and shorter films that can reach out in what we call the tentpole areas of a film. So a film is not about one thing normally. We like to deconstruct it into a series of 4 tentpoles, maybe 5. And then, in this case, we built these 5 shorts around this particular film. One of the shorts is called What We're Leaving Behind in Iraq. And when you see the $4.3 trillion of our expenditures now fenced in, we didn't even have the wherewithal to bury all this refuse in Iraq. It's staggering. And it was filmed by a chaplain who was traveling around with General Petraeus at the time. So, you know, that's one short film. We have another short film about peace parks. Who knew there were over 300 peace parks in the world? Many of them, over I think 50 of them, are actually on the border of countries in conflict and have done tremendous work bringing those countries together. So the use of media in a variety of different lengths and different types, all in what we call an ecosystem, That's really how impact film is maturing.
Great. And John, can you talk to us a little bit about the impact of the campaign you showed us? I believe, how many years of work was that?
Well, that's where it started over 20 years ago. So there was about 80 images there and you could see the earlier ones were very crude and the image quality. I'll talk about impact of art and film just in my arena. That the crop art piece that you saw was the third piece. We had done 2 years ago, we had gone and created an 80-acre crop art against the Keystone Pipeline that really tapped a powerful moment in time, and that went viral for the Cowboy and Indian Alliance. But what that did also is it ignited other artists. So we were able to, we later, working with the Farmer's Art in Helen Tandler, we planted the crop art in the shape of this giant cowboy and Indian with the idea, well, maybe we could get some big name artists to come play a harvest concert. And lo and behold, we ended up getting Willie Nelson and Neil Young to come to the farm.
I remember that.
And that was a huge turning point in that campaign because it shifted public opinion in Nebraska radically. And, within a year, Obama had rejected it. And so you never know what that idea will lead to. So an idea in the middle of the night to go and do a giant crop art ended up a Willie and Neil concert on the farm with almost 10,000 people and completely shifted the politics on the ground. And so the images and the video that were produced in that whole process, again, we have such a short attention span. When I go on and I see anything over a 2 on a video, I'm like, man, that's a big commitment. If I'm going to click on that, that's a big commitment. I'm going to spend 2 minutes of my time. So it's the unfortunate side of our attention span, shrinking. But it's really important as activists to understand how to hook people with short, powerful, impactful video bits so that then they can dig deeper into the racing extinctions of the world and some of these other amazing documentaries that are being made.
Yeah, and something tells me that our friend Daryl Hannah had played a role in
She
facilitating
was
the
definitely
rock star
she was
Nebraska.
definitely at the heart of that.
Yeah. And I brought that up for a reason because when you have that kind of star power, like Daryl or Leonardo DiCaprio or Mark Ruffalo, and that you're willing to use that to leverage a film to have impact, to access popular culture. I think that's really one of the things that becomes a very quick driver.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, maybe, you guys know a lot of stars, you Hollywood guys over here. Yeah. I mean, how do we get the Hollywood community engaged, I know that the Environmental Media Association,
They find you, actually. I mean, I remember when we were doing God Before It Was Fuel, Fields of Fuel, and I was going to the local post office online with about 20 people, and I get a phone call from Willie Nelson, inviting me to Farm Aid, and found out about our film, and, invited us to come and interview him and Neil Young, which then led us to Sheryl Crow. Even in it was interesting, you're talking about the celebrity and the power of celebrity. When we created that presentation, the Peace Day thing we wanted to do on the 21st, the first thing they said was, let's take it to Harrison Ford. And I was like, wow. Because immediately, just by having Harrison's Ford name and affiliation, just creates a whole nother level of social media. And then we also talked about Yoko, who, in Rooted in Peace, gave us a particular song called Love. So we have a relationship. So what does that mean in terms of how do you use, that really is impact. That's really taking, someone who tweets, who has 50 or 100 million people, and says, care about planet Earth. Mm-hmm. People think about it in a different way.
Well, and it can cut both ways, too, especially in a highly polarized issue. We did with, I'm on the board of Environmental Media Association, we did a video a few years ago called What the Frack. It was advocating to ban fracking, and one of the targets was Governor Hickenlooper here. And it actually, and we also did it to New York and to California, but Colorado was where we got the biggest response, and the industry actually came out with their own counter video. So we had like 22 celebrities, and always the attack back is, it's a bunch of rich Hollywood celebrities. You know, what do they know about what life is in Colorado? So it can cut both ways. So it really needs to be thought out. Like, they'll bring attention, but the way that you utilize celebrity is crucial depending on the issue that you're working on.
And I would even comment to say, you know, there was a person who worked with David Stern for 15 years. David Stern is the commissioner of the NBA, and we've been thinking about how do you engage sports athletes, MLB, NHL, NBA, to come out, you know, and become an advocate for the environment or for peace. And so we've begun that as well, because we think it's not just traditional Hollywood like Sheryl Crow or Neil Young, but it's also sports, which has become the largest connoisseur of advertising. I mean, it pretty much, the brands line up. We're engaged with our hockey and our basketball and our World Series. And so, you know, in my mind, I feel like sports athletes also have an opportunity to participate, you know, in helping us, you know, with this crisis.
Well, just a quick thing on that. Yao Ming, the great, you know, basketball player, is doing incredible things on animal protection in China right now. And that we have CITES coming up in September, which is this crucial once every 3-year framework for animal protection and engaging with global, you know, football stars and in terms of international football, soccer stars. Really crucial on that front.
No, it's really crucial. So, you know, a lot of us will be going to Hawaii for the ICUN event, where I think CITES will be also taking place. And so, you know, the world's attention is going to be focused there. It's the first time it's been on U.S. soil ever, I think. It happens every 4 years. And hopefully President Obama will come and make some of his final ecological acts before he exits office. So I just want to finish this whole conversation with, you know, perhaps one of the other great impact films is the most successful film that's ever been made, and that was James Cameron's Avatar. Absolutely. And the reason that it had such an impact and made $4 billion or whatever dollars is because it hit a chord. It hit a chord on our indigenous values, our connections to the earth, and I just wanted to kind of connect the dots between, you know, some of our efforts here in the documentary world to perhaps the greatest theatrical release of all time thus far, and show that those impacts can be made in so many different ways. So I encourage all the screenwriters and all of the designers and the people in the sports industries, you know, to really come together and figure out how to use the media, how to use film to make impact. So thank you very much. I want to thank all my panelists.